Tell me the name of this animal. Tiger is correct. What's 60 minus 7? 53, that's right. In what category would you put both a hammer and a screwdriver? Both tools, yes. If you answered all three of those questions correctly and effortlessly, you're off to a great start in matching Donald Trump's intellect. You see, as part of a routine physical, Trump has just completed what he called a high-difficulty cognitive test. I scored a perfect 30 out of 30, considered extreme intelligence. Except, that's extremely wrong. And we know this because we've spoken to the people who created the test.
The test was not designed to be an IQ test.
This test, called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, is not a test of intelligence. It's a screening tool for cognitive dysfunction. And I can show you why Trump was able to score so high now and in the past by showing you the test itself.
I aced it, right, Susie? I aced. I got every question right. And these are tough questions.
So this test, the starting point for figuring out what kinds of questions Trump had to answer is in this memo written by the official physician to the president, Captain Sean Barbabella. If we scroll down under Trump's neurological testing, cognitive function assessed with the Montreal Cognitive Assessment was within normal limits with a score of 30 out of 30. So I was curious, right? How impressive is a 30 out of 30? Well, I managed to track down this older version of the test. It is from several years ago, but it's a pretty standardized test with only very minor changes from year to year. There are also many versions of the various questions. So, as not to spoil the integrity of the test, we're only showing questions from one distinct version. Oh, and you see this name at the bottom? That's this guy who told us everything we know.
Some parts are meant to be more difficult than other parts. And some parts are actually meant to be easy. And because it was designed to be able to look at mild impairment and moderate impairment.
So in defense of Donald Trump, probably the hardest part about getting a perfect score comes about halfway through the test. And I'll administer it to you like it's for real, using the actual script that a test giver might use. This is a memory test. I'm going to read you a list of words that you will have to remember now and later on, so listen carefully. When I'm through, tell me as many words as you can remember. It doesn't matter in what order you say them. Leg, cotton, school, tomato, white. Say them back to me. Okay, and no matter how many you were able to actually recite back, I would read the list out to you one more time, and then you'd take another stab at saying them back to me in whatever order you want. Then, without me giving you any feedback about whether you're right or not, I would tell you to keep those words in mind, because I will ask you to recall those words again at the end of the test. Most of the test, most people would consider pretty basic stuff. For example, the actual first question in this particular test is where the administrator would tell you to draw a line going from a number to a letter in ascending order, starting here with 1, then going to A, then to 2, and so on. And you have to finish here. Could you do it? Well, if you can, then that's 1 point out of 30 that you've just scored.
That's a task of executive function where you have to hold two sets of responses in memory. So what are the numbers in order and what are the letters in order? And you have to alternate between them.
And this is where the science of these tests actually gets pretty interesting. Because in this question, where you just have to draw a clock showing 5 past 10, it's not really about how good of an artist you are. It's about planning and sequencing. Like, yes, there are the mechanics of visualizing a clock face and drawing the circle, but to properly space out the numbers, you might start by writing the 12, the 3, the 6, then the 9, and then filling in the numbers in between. Then you're probably thinking, okay, how do I show 5 past 10, which is 10:05, meaning I need a shorthand pointing to the 10, and then a clearly longer line pointing at 5 minutes, which is the 1 on the clock face. It's actually pretty involved when you think about it. Not hard, mind you, for most people, but it certainly can be if you have some kind of impairment.
So you might see that the numbers are not spread out equally throughout the task, throughout the clock face. You're asked to place the hands at a certain time. And you might be very concrete in how you do it and set those hands at exactly the numbers 10 and 11, when in fact you were asked to place them at 10 after 11.
Anyway, point being, if you can draw a nice clock, that's 3 more points out of 30. Other ways to get points on the test. Tell me, what is this? That's right, that's a duck. That's 1 point. If you can identify what category of things both matches and a lamp belong to, they're both light sources, maybe, or 2 things that can get hot, then that's another point. Can you copy this 3-dimensional line drawing of a bed? That's worth a point. Do some basic math. 60 minus 7 a bunch of times. So 60, 53, 46, 39, 32, 25. You get at least 4 subtractions correct. You would get the maximum 3 points for that question. So that's already 10 points out of a possible 30 with just the questions I've gone through with you. There are even easier questions, like, for example, do you know when and where you are right now? If you can name the current year, that's 1 point. If you can name the full date, so, Tuesday, June 2nd, for example, that's 3 more points. If you can name what city you're in, that's another point. So now you're halfway through the test. And to be fair, the test is designed to get harder the further you go. So for example, there are some concentration tasks. Repeat after me. 2, 4, 8, 1, 5. Did you get them all? 2, 4, 8, 1, 5. That's another point out of 30. How about say these numbers back to me in the reverse order in which I give them to you. 4, 2, 7. Did you get 7, 2, 4? Great, another point. Now, repeat after me with the exact words I use. The child walked his dog in the park after midnight. You have to get it exact. The child walked his dog in the park after midnight. That's another point. Can you tap your hand every time I say the letter A in the following string of letters? Okay, so this is measuring attention and vigilance. See if you can count how many A's there are. F, B, A, C, M, N, A, J, K, L, B, A, F, A, K, D, E, A, J, A, M, O, F, A, B. How many A's? If you counted 11, that's 1 more point. So anyways, you get the idea. But let's get back to what's considered the hardest part of the test. Can you remember the 5 words I told you to remember a few minutes ago? You can go ahead and pause the video if you want to try to recall them all. You can get partial credit if you can name them with hints. For example, the first word was a body part. Yeah, it was leg. Then you had cotton, school, tomato. And the last one, if you don't remember, you can still get part marks if I tell you it was a color. And if you still can't get it, you can still salvage a point if I frame it to you as a multiple choice question. It was either red, white, or black. That's right, it was white.
We're testing for a person's ability to learn and remember new information over a short delay. And so that task is designed to very quickly assess whether an individual is having difficulty in that area.
This part is difficult because you have to make your own story in your head to try to relate those words together.
So a perfect score for those 5 words with no hints is another 5 points out of 30. All told, Trump has taken this test 4 times now, with only slight variations each time. And he's always quite proud of acing it.
No president has ever agreed to take one, because when you get into the mid-questions, meaning 10, question number 10, 11, 12, 28, 30, they get harder and harder.
And he seems to believe even the act of taking the test is itself a feat. Are the Democrats really surprised? In fact, this is my 4th such test, all perfect, or 120 correct answers out of 120 questions asked. It's not 120 questions, it's just marked out of 30, and he's done it 4 times, so 30 times 4 is 120. Anyway, it is very rare that anyone gets a perfect score, especially when achieved 4 times in a row, all people running for president and vice president should be forced to take high-difficulty cognitive tests. So I'll say this, he's right that it's rare to get perfect 4 times in a row. But a big reason why is that very few people ever take the test 4 times in a row. For starters, it's surely easier to ace the more times you've taken it and the better you know what to expect. But I'll also repeat what was said at the start. This is not an IQ test.
Maybe his personality might color the way he expresses it, and saying it's extremely good or extremely intelligent. It does correlate with intelligence, but wasn't the purpose of the test itself.
Yes, it's a test of cognitive dysfunction, as in, you might expect someone with severe dementia to really struggle with this test. So if past presidents haven't routinely taken it, and to my knowledge, no US president, even Joe Biden, has ever taken this test before Trump, it's probably, for the most part, because there's been no compelling need or reason to screen George W. Bush for Alzheimer's or Barack Obama for dementia.
But they said to me, would you like to take a cognitive test? I said, is it hard? They said, yes. I said, well, I'm a very smart person. They said, I won't do poorly. I'm a smart person, not a stupid person.
Now, I'm not saying Trump shouldn't be proud of scoring 30 out of 30, no more than someone should be ashamed for scoring anything less. 26 and above is considered perfectly normal. And so Trump's test results suggest he is normal in this narrow way. But any claim beyond that, for example, that this result is a sign of extreme intelligence, as he puts it, simply untrue.